So Donald Trump has finally evolved to deporting babies. I was wondering when this would finally step his game up and really start popping his. Donald Trump is now deporting tiny children. A 2-year-old little girl has now been deported by Donald Trump's ICE. Donald Trump's ICE has deported a 2-year-old child. And to make matters worse, she's a citizen. Donald Trump deported a 2-year-old citizen, a Pee-wee citizen. Bro, let's open this up. 2-year-old U.S. citizen apparently deported with no meaningful process, judge has said. The child's mother was being deported and wanted to take the girl, U.S. lawyers said. When the judge asked to speak to her, they were already in the air. A federal judge in Louisiana on Friday said that a 2-year-old U.S. citizen appears to have been deported with her mother to Honduras with no meaningful due process. In an order scheduling a hearing for next month, U.S. District Judge Terry Doughty wrote that the child was sent to Honduras on Friday with her mother, who had been ordered to be removed. The government contends that this is all okay because the mother wishes that the child be deported, her Doughty wrote. But the court doesn't know that. You would know that in the event of this thing called due process. Conservatives no longer believe in due process, though, as long as you're here illegally. They can't possibly conceive of a scenario in which due process might be something they might need. Could be in the future that MAGA's not in control, but the laws of due process stays in place. Who's to say you can't be a victim of the very thing you support? MAGA is incapable of conceiving of such outcomes. Therefore, they support Pee-wees being deported by the Department of Justice, by Donald Trump's immigration agenda, regime, really what it is. ICE is basically his personal Gestapo. It's about time we started dehumanizing this movement to what it is. It's about time we started calling these people red hats. This movement is ridiculous. The Department of Homeland Security spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin said in a statement, or Laughlin, or whatever, how you say that name, said in a statement that the parent made the decision to take the child with them to Honduras, adding that it is common that parents want to be removed with their children. We don't know that. We don't know if she actually wants to be removed with her child. We don't know anything because the proper legal procedures have not been followed. Donald Trump's regime is resolved to upend literally every single thing we built up in Western civilization. People's belief in the efficacy of modern medicine, freedom of speech, due process, everything that makes life worth living in this country is being upended by this movement. The Louisiana court called a government lawyer at 12:19 p.m. local time to speak with the child's mother, while the plane was already in the air, and was called back at 1:06 p.m. and told that mother and child were already in Honduras, Doughty wrote. Doughty wrote that the May 16th hearing was in the interest of dispelling our strong suspicion that the government just deported a U.S. citizen with no meaningful process. This is beyond... This is literally beyond any sense. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. The only reason why the mother feels as though she has to bring her child with her to Honduras is because she wasn't given the proper due process. Now, also keep in mind, Donald Trump's regime wants to remove birthright citizenship. We know for a fact that they also do not believe in going through the legal process, because even if you are here legally, you can still be deported for having the wrong opinion about Israel, or if you're brown. We have seen incidents of people going through the legal process being literally arrested at court. A judge was literally just arrested for keeping someone away from ICE who literally was going through the legal proceedings. Donald Trump's regime couldn't give a damn about due process. Donald Trump's regime couldn't give a damn about, well, if both of your parents are citizens when you're born here, then you're an American. The reality is that they are citizens until you decide they're not citizens. That's the reality of it. The Trump administration, this regime does not believe in citizenship based on law. That's why when I see Vivek Ramaswamy tweeting for the upteenth time about how citizenship isn't about race, but it's about what you believe in and the Pledge of Allegiance you make to America as an idea, he still doesn't get it. Citizenship is about this. It's about skin color. It's about race. That's the reason why they're getting rid of birthright citizenship. That's the reason why they're making it incredibly difficult to actually go through the legal process. They're doing this to make sure that non-whites get deported. That's the purpose of this entire thing. That's why a 2-year-old child is being deported, sent on a plane with random people to a country she's never been to. And this is an accomplishment to the Trump regime. To the Trump regime, this is somehow or another how a leader is supposed to behave. Understand and realize the loss of due process negatively impacts the entire country. Nobody walks away from this loss of proper rule of law unscathed. This will damage the nation irreparably for years to come. And conservatives cannot conceive of a scenario in which this can be used against them. Conservatives, need I remind you, Donald Trump continues to cause unspeakable levels of damage to the economy in the wake of his tariffs destroying the American dollar, destroying the bond market, literally ripping up Americans' ability to go to the store and buy cheap imported goods. He now wants to compound on all of those economic issues of his own creation with a new concoction of bullshit. Now this fat ass nigga talking about some, we're recommencing the collection of student loan debt. It's like, what in the fuck are you doing? The point I'm making here, if you're not like connecting the dots, is if the economy crashes and we head toward a recession and possibly toward a depression, you don't think your former MAGA ass could possibly be locked the fuck up or deported? You think that if Trump can lock you up for speaking ill of Israel, if you think Trump can cut funding to schools for allowing students to not like Israel, he won't then move the goalpost to, well, what if they don't like me? What if they don't like me? What do I do then? What if they don't like me? That's the logical next step for an egotistical maniac like Donald Trump, is what if they don't like me? Then he can just deport you too. These things are put in place to protect everybody. Do I give a damn about some real criminal who smuggled themselves into the country being arrested and deported? Not really. But ensuring that they have due process ensures that I have due process, especially with an individual like Donald Trump at the helm, who seems to think it appropriate to deport people who are here legally on student visas with no care or concern for how international bodies, literally the international community might think about that. No care or concern, just locking people up in random ICE detainment centers with no care or concern for how we look as a nation. Then, actually I forgot. By the way, since Donald Trump has seen fit to deport people for bullshit and arrest people for bullshit and send people back to where they came from who were visiting the country legally because they had the wrong opinion about him, people visiting the US, it's not going to be much of a thing anymore. People are going to stop visiting the United States of America. People are going to decide that, you know what, it's really not worth it to book that flight. It's really not worth it to go back home, or it's not worth it to visit the United States. Because if I have the wrong opinion, and Trump's cock-sucking, dick-riding IT, tech team, spy team finds this shit, if they find it, it's very possible they might detain me as soon as I land. Why would anybody want to visit? And you know how that affects the economy. We have a multitude of landmarks that people love to visit. From iconic movie sets to national parks. I mean, the list goes on and on. And in Donald Trump's, I guess, high IQ brain that he claims to possess, the right move to make is to stifle international travel, to stifle people's desire to come from other countries to the US to visit. In his mind, that makes total economic sense in the midst of his tariff bullshit and this recollection of student debt bullshit. The point I'm making, long story short, is if you support this 2-year-old being yeeted across the border with no due process, keep in mind it can be yo ass next. All it takes is for Donald Trump to lose the will of the people thanks to his economic policies, and now you find yourself on the streets protesting and possibly being arrested and sent abroad. I'm just saying. This is a reality that nobody can run away from. This is a reality that nobody can avoid. This is very much possible. Due process is invaluable. Do not believe for 1 second this cannot affect you. And who's to say some demonic Democrat doesn't take over once Trump is gone? Who's to say like some legendary super Democrat, some like demonic like Democrat takes over and just decides to make life hell for anyone who supported Trump? Who's to say? Who's to say how things go? Are you sure you don't want due process to exist? Are you sure? Because you guys aren't governing like a movement that's going to retain power for the next 10 to 15 years. You're governing like a group that's going to lose power in the next 10 to 15 years and have an entire nation of 300 million people pissed off at it. And with the loss of due process, the loss of the proper balances of the branches of government, who's to say what happens to MAGA when it all falls down? All right, they're deporting little peewees now. This is peak MAGA behavior. This is how these niggas get down now.